Mm.
Yeah, man, he
So,
told me.
so what about Jesse Reid then? Because I know
Oh,
when you initially messaged me, you mentioned about getting Jesse Reid on, and then I recognised your name from the from the videos I saw. I thought let's get you on. So talking about Jesse Reid and what you've learned being around Jesse Reid.
Jesse Reid, boy, man, I met him back in '92. I had a U.S. national champion. I told you the guy that beat Salmaki back in the nationals. And Jesse was there, and I wanted to turn him pro. And the fighter asked me, hey, what do you think? I said, hey, it's better to go with him because he's got a lot more experience to be better for you. He knows a lot more than me. So, I gave him my blessing. So I go to camp sometimes to go watch him and watch him train. But one time we fought on the Mike McCallum, James Toney undercard.
Oh wow,
The second one, yeah, we fought on that card. It was in Reno,
those are
and
great
after
fights, weren't they? Tony McCallum.
oh, two high level technicians you don't see nowadays, man.
Bill Miller in one corner. Was Eddie Futch in the other corner? Was it?
James Tone, yeah, Eddie Futch was in
Wow.
the other corner. I talked to when I was there. I talked to Eddie up there too, man. God, I used to see Eddie around all the time. Him and Thel Torrance, his right hand man, yeah, and Hedgeman Lewis, yeah.
Hedgeman
But
Lewis, yeah.
during the fight, I sat. We were sitting ringside. Jesse sat down with me and told me, you see, Tony, he showed me all the little intricacies of how to execute the shoulder roll, keeping that left shoulder pointed, that chin tucked in, how to roll with a punch. Yeah, how to counter off it. He told me all the little technical stuff on how to execute that shoulder roll, man. And he goes, you see his trainer, Bill Miller? I didn't even know who the fuck he was. He goes, he's the one that taught him all that. He's a very good trainer.
Yeah, he was. Didn't Bill Miller train Emmanuel Stewart when Emmanuel Stewart was younger?
I don't know about that, but he trained in Emmanuel's gym. They Bill was in the crop for a while until he branched
Yeah,
off on
yeah,
his own. Yeah,
yeah.
he was one of the coaches over there. Him and Walter Smith and some other guys. Sammy Poe.
Sammy
Yeah,
Poe, yeah.
they had a lot of
Floyd
great
Logan.
trainers. Who?
Yeah. Floyd Logan.
Yeah, yeah. I knew who he was. I didn't know him personally, but I met not Sammy, but the other guy, kind of the older guy with the mustache, heavier set guy. I met him, but Manny, yeah, he was the main guy. He was the Godfather. Yeah, but yeah, he taught me the shoulder roll and and how to execute it. So that gave me a different perspective on I learned what world class skills are. That shoulder roll counter. He taught me about leverage, about balance, about when you fight like this with your left hand low, how to roll the shoulder, how to counter, and he taught me the up jab. You know,
Mm.
you know the up jab.
Yeah, Bob Foster. I studied Bob Foster's up jab.
Yeah,
He was great at it. Yeah, yeah.
he goes, it's effective because the fighters don't see it. It's coming from an angle they don't see. Yeah.
Mm.
And it's a different type of jab. Everybody throws their jab right here, or they'll throw it right here. But if you throw it, right, up at a 40, upwards, it's coming from an angle they don't see. And if you throw that up jab, then with the right hand behind it, whoo, they don't see it.
Yeah.
So he
I
told
suppose
me
Ali was great at it as well. Ali would be
yeah,
great at using the up jab as well. Yeah.
you flick it a lot. Yeah, you
Yeah,
flick
yeah.
it. Yeah, you
Yes,
flick it.
great
Just put
jab.
it in your face. But
Mm.
he taught me the importance of that. He taught me about angles, about angles, shifting the weight, uh, shifting the weight when you get angles so you can get leverage on your punches. He taught me about. He said all great fighters were great. All great fighters that were punchers had great shoulder rotation. They rotated their shoulders into the punch, meaning their
Mm.
weight. When you rotate your shoulders, your hips rotate automatically, and when you rotate your shoulders and your hips, the weight goes with it. So all that with your weight with the speed, that's power. You know, he told me
Mm.
about the importance of shoulder rotation, rotating every time you throw your punches, you rotate your shoulders into the punch to keep them sharp. Yeah, he told me about that, the angles, leverage, about how to get leverage on your shots, stuff all like that. Different, what do you call it? The importance of touch punches. A lot of fighters just
Yeah.
wait, between combinations. He says it's important, to stay busy with your punches. It ain't got
Mm.
to be hard. Just touch them, touch them, touch them.
Exactly.
Just yeah,
Occupy, like you said before. Occupy.
and it keeps you. I talked to him about that last night, and I said, and it keeps you in the rhythm. It
Yeah.
keeps you in the rhythm to throw combinations when you need to. But he told me, all fighters throw their punches at one speed. He goes, hey, take takes some steam off your punches and
Yeah,
just touch them.
definitely. If you're going at the same speed, your opponent's just going to pick up it's just going to time you. Yeah, yeah,
It's like a pitcher. You see a pitcher, how he changes the speed of his fastball or his curveball. Same thing. If you throw the same speed all the time, a fastball at the same speed, a good major league hitter is going to pick up on. He's eventually
yeah,
going to time it and hit it out. So you got to change the
exactly.
speed of your punches and your pitches so the opponent doesn't pick up on it, man. Lomachenko's beautiful at it. Lomachenko, he'll touch you with a lot of punches, man. But Jesse
Yeah,
was telling me that back 30 years ago about touching the punch, touching. You always got to be busy with that. And you know what I mean? And his philosophy was boxing is a fight. You fight to win. You box for defense. Yeah. He was more physical. You better fight.
very
You know,
smart.
for him. Yeah, he's a guy you better fight. And Jesse was a great. One thing I like about Jesse, he's real positive minded. When I was coming up, in boxing you got a lot of haters. I mean, especially the old timers. Oh Jesus! When I was in Sacramento, I was working with all the top fighters. All these old timers would be hating on me because I was working with all the top fighters, and they were working with a bunch of local bums. But Jesse, he was always gracious with me, giving his knowledge to me and always positive. Yeah, you're doing it right, son. You're doing it right. Just keep what you're doing. You keep doing the right things. You're going to have good fighters. He was a real positive minded guy. And he's like that in the corner. When he works with this fighter, he's very positive minded. He has them believing they can win every round of the fight. And that's important. It ain't the X's and O's. A lot of it's psychology. You gotta create that belief in your
Yeah,
fighter. Do
yeah.
psychology. Yes, he was
As a
doing.
coach, taking a lot of different roles, don't you? As a coach, one of
And
them is that mental side of it. Yeah,
you got to recognize it. You got to recognize all this stuff. And Jesse, he taught me all this stuff. Man, out of all the coaches, I told Jesse, you're probably the guy that taught me more than any other coach out there. All of them.
wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Especially that shoulder roll that was like a new invent. That was like a new invent, something world class I never seen. I seen it, but I didn't understand the details on how to execute it. And once you execute it, how effective it could be against your opponent. You're adding another skill set to your dimension. Okay, the more skill sets you had, the more weapons in your arsenal, the more effective a fighter you're going to have. And that shoulder roll, boy, if you execute it correctly, you eliminate all targets to hit. And that defense is hard to penetrate if you know how
Yeah,
to if you know how to execute it correctly. Then once you start countering off it, see Floyd Mayweather always told me the shoulder roll is not. It ain't worth the shit. It's not effective if you don't counter off it.
mm.
You got to get the fighter's attention. You just can't just stay there and let him throw punches at you. You got to roll and
Yeah,
counter off it to get his attention, to get his respect. Put some fear in him.
definitely. A good fighter, if you just make them try to miss punches, a good fighter's going to land. If you keep trying
Eventually.
to block punches, so yeah, you got to come back and counter punches. Definitely, yeah.
And you
Um,
got to get his attention. You got to put some fear in him. Okay, this
mm,
game is you get in that ring and fear factor.
yeah,
Okay, you got to put some fear into especially these tough Mexican fighters over here. You got to get their attention. Once you start, okay, yeah, they start coming at you, start beating that ass and busting them up. Okay, they get that, they get it now, and they're not as brave. Yeah, especially when you start hitting to the body. That's one thing I had to
yeah,
teach my guys here, man. Now, my guys, like I said, inside fighting is a hard skill set to learn, man.
mm,
You got to get past that fear factor, that uncomfortableness. Okay, the best way to learn inside fighting, doing it in the gym. Okay, you could learn shadow boxing, which is the foundation of learning that skill set. You can learn it on a heavy bag. You can learn it hitting the pads. The number one way is sparring, getting there
yeah,
and getting your mouth busted, getting beat up. Okay, learn it when somebody's throwing back at you. Okay, you get in the pocket. Okay, and you're staying toe to toe, and that's where you learn. That's when you conquer those fears in you. That's when you get rid of that uneasiness, and that's where you increase your confidence and comfortability over time. Once you do it over and over and over again, the fears dissipate. You start getting more confident. You start getting more comfortable. That's how you learn. Especially in my gym, we got a 13 by 13 ring. Man, you can't run.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
you send me the videos of the ring. Yeah. So yeah,
yeah.
you
You
got to
see,
learn to fight inside there, don't you? Yeah.
yeah, you see my guys fight. It ain't a
Mm,
boxing exhibition. It's a fight, and that's the number one way to learn is inside fighting is by doing it. But you're gonna get, you got to have a coach to teach you how to do it too, though, man. Teach you to fun. If you
mm.
see something wrong, oh, you're doing this wrong. You're doing this wrong. Do this. Okay, yeah, okay. Do this. Do this. You got to have a coach to show you the little details. So, after you're done sparring, everything you did wrong, you correct it. So over time, you get it. It might take you 2 years, like one of my kids, Manuel Brahm. Oh, he was just naturally aggressive. It took him 3 4 months. he just needed to learn the technique and the science behind it. But and he wasn't scared to get hit. A lot of guys, they get in there in that pocket. You know what I mean? They don't have
Yeah.
that mental. It starts with the mental, physical attitude. Yeah,
Yeah. I think most people now they're inclined to just clinch immediately when it gets close, as opposed to fighting their way out.
that's only going to take you far, man. And
Mm.
another thing is that don't look good on TV. The matchmakers ain't going to want you back. You know what I mean? They want matchmakers. If you lose, if you put up a good fight, they're gonna call you back. Yeah, I mean that's my
Yeah.
experience. Working with
Yeah.
everybody. Yeah.
Amazing.
So,
It's great experiences. I feel like
oh yeah.
my boxing IQ's improved just by listening to you.
Oh, thank you.
Talk about those systems. Yeah, but I appreciate it, definitely appreciate it. So what about yourself then? I mean, you worked with a lot of not just great coaches, which we just spoke about, but other world champions as well. So any particular sort of fighter you've worked with that sort of significantly impacted your coaching approach?
Learned something from all my. I was a young coach back there. It's not like I taught them anything. Shit, I was lucky. I was lucky just to be in the show. I just had the opportunity because I was in the gym with them guys, and back then nobody worked the hand pass. Are you kidding me? Pad work back then. That's why I got a lot of work. Once I started coaching, the coach in the gym go, "Hey man, you gotta learn how to work the hand pads." I said, "Okay." It's natural, man. I mean, I was a natural catching the pads, teaching them. I was a natural. I was young, but it was a natural skill. So once they see me and they're like, "Shit, Gogue, give me 4 rounds. Go 4 rounds." All the top fighters, all the champions, everybody, top contenders, amateur. Hey, go work me on the pads. Work me on the pads, because nobody ever did it. And if you do pads correctly, it's a great tool
Mm.
to learn everything you want, everything you need to become a better fighter in boxing. It polishes up your punches. You learn how to throw your punches correctly. You learn how to get power, leverage. You learn how to throw your punches flow. You learn different types of combinations. You can learn how to throw your, improve your mechanics. You can learn, put your fighter in situations, what's going to happen in the ring, and work on combinations or, which you could use in a fight, game plan,
Yeah.
everything. It's a good tool to use if you know how to use it correctly. And back in the days, man, yeah, back then there was no pad work, man. That's shit. So when I started doing it,
So what was the alternative then to pads? Pads have come in now. So what did pads replace? The time was it? So going
back
back to
then,
when you started, was it just more
shadow
shadow boxing,
boxing,
the heavy bag? Yeah.
heavy bags, sparring, double M bag, speed bag. That was it. There were no fucking pads. It was rare. Yeah, it was rare. When I fought, shit, I could count how many times I hit the pads in one hand, and I fought for like 5 years. Yeah,
Wow.
very rare. Even when at the amateur fights I had, you're warming up, you just shadow box, put the gloves on, that's it. No pad work on that.
So would you learn specific drills with working with someone else, partnering up with someone, going through particular drills as
I
opposed to
learned everything
pads?
myself. I picked
Oh
everything
well.
up on myself. Basically, sometimes we work on technique with this. I just had a good feel. It was a natural gift. I had a good feel on what I needed to work with fighters. It was strategy. Okay, this is what we're going to do. This guy does this. We're going to do this. Or, you know what I mean? Or this combination is going to work on this guy. This guy, I see a weakness in the guy. Okay, we're going to work on that, exploiting that weakness. Or sometimes it's just work on, keeping his punches sharp, making sure his balance, he set his feet good, making sure his jab is nice and crisp and sharp. is combinations are flowing, or we're working on different type of combinations. You know what I mean? Stuff like that that we're going to use in the fight. None of this, you know,
So if you
just
found a
different.
weakness, so if you found a weakness in a fighter, you would then
I
tell him, okay, let's do this counter punch. Let's say that he does a particular move. This is going to be our counter punch. So you would tell your fighter to do that in shadow boxing as opposed to doing it on the pads.
I do it in shadow boxing first.
Wow,
If
okay,
he's
that's
not throwing his
interesting.
punches correctly, I correct it in shadow boxing. Like
But
sometimes I see a fighter, boom, boom. They're not rotating their weight into the punch. They'll just slap. You know what I mean? They're just touching with it. The fuck. Who you gonna knock out with that when you throw your right hand like this instead of rotating your weight into it? You got to, like I said, punch yourself, punch through the target. So I'll correct that. I said, hey man, you got to start rotating your shoulders more, putting your weight behind the punches. Okay.
but you
I'll
get you
correct
get you
it in
get
shadow boxing.
you get coaches nowadays who do a lot of do a pad work, and they'll practice particular counter punches on the mitts. Okay, so they're fighting someone. So this is the fighter throws this punch quite often when he does come back with this counter punch. So before mitts, how would you then practice that particular movement? Would it just be shadow boxing or on the heavy bag?
Shadow boxing.
Shadow boxing. So you'd
Shadow
practice
boxing.
counter punches, and game planning by shadow boxing as opposed to mitts.
Yeah, that's where it
That's
starts.
interesting. Mm.
Yeah, that's shadow boxing is the foundation of learning skill sets. Learning strategies, perfecting the mechanics of the delivery of your punches, game planning, all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like for example, if I see a fighter, he's tall and he's moving by the ropes laterally. He throws his jab. Most guys, when they're by the ropes and they're tall, they throw their jab, but they bring it down low. I said, get that distance close enough. When he throws that jab, slip and go right over the right hand. You're gonna land it all the time. Right when they're right by the ropes. When they're right by the ropes, they make the mistake of throwing that jab, leaving their chin exposed. And that's shit. That's counter. That's tailor made to be a counter right hand. And I'll work on that in shadow boxing. Yeah. So what the hell? What the hell should I work? I don't need to work on the hand pads on that. I can do it on shadow boxing. Shit. You know what I mean? Them little poodles, they can hit that. You know what I mean? Them
Okay.
little poodle, yeah, just hit that.
Yeah, yeah.
Just throw that jab, hit. Throw that jab, slip, counter. Basic shit. Joe Louis used to do that real good. I was watching when he fought Primo Carnera. That's how he
Yeah.
knocked him the fuck out. Yeah, Primo threw a bullshit jab, brought it down. Louis just timed it, went over the top. Yeah, Primo back then when they say he was 6'6", 260. It's a big
Mm,
boy. It don't matter.
yeah.
You get hit right, you're gonna fall. Shit. You know? But anyway, yeah, shadow boxing is king, man. I don't care what anybody said. That's the number one day I work shadow boxing. Shadow boxing, we work everything I told you we work on in the midst. We do it first in shadow boxing. I don't hell no, man. I don't put the mat. Shit, I'm to the. I don't like take my body can't take those punches no more. I use these
True.
pads.
Those elbows on the pads,
Yeah,
they add
you'll
up, don't
see
they?
when you get older. You'll see. You're like, oh shit. So now I use those paddles. You ever see those paddles?
Yeah, yeah. I got some as well. Yeah.
I use those. Oh, and I have my guy use them little bitty bag gloves. The old school,
Yeah, yeah. Well, the old school used those.
and
Mm.
that's what I have them use now, man. It sharp. It does just as good, and it sharpens and teaches. It sharpens their punches. Teaches them how to throw the punches just like using pads or with gloves on. Same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that because my previous guest was Arthur Palak from the Kronk Gym, and he was there at the time of Thomas Hearns and all those greats. And he mentioned Thomas
What's the
Hearns,
name?
Arthur Palak.
Oh yeah. I
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
his brother. I think lost to. No,
His
he
brother was
beat
amateur
Fernando.
boxer as well. Yeah, yeah.
His brother beat Fernando 47. If that was him, yeah, his brother beat Fernando Vargas at the U.S. Nationals.
Uh, yeah,
Vargas,
so he mentioned the same thing that Thomas Hearns told him to wear those small gloves
yeah,
because it helps with the punch technique. And of course, as we know, Thomas Hearns was a devastating puncher as well. Yeah, so it's interesting.
you see in the olden days when they hit the bags, they didn't use fucking boxing gloves. They used them little bitty bag gloves, them little
Mm.
leather bag gloves.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and the reason why they did it because when a lot of fighters overprotect their hands, they wrap it and big old padding and this and that. So when they're in a fight, they wrap their hands, they put on the small gloves, they hurt their hands. Okay? But you use those little bitty bag gloves, you just wrap your hands, you start hitting the bag, it toughens the knuckles, the tendons, the bones, the wrists, and everything. It makes it harder for you to hurt your hand when you put on the small the 8-ounce fight gloves, using them little bitty fight gloves. Yeah. When you start hitting it, with shots, the heavy bag, and you know what I mean, and you hit it, it just toughens the tendons, the bones, the knuckles, the wrists, and everything. So when you know what I mean, when you fight in a real fight, you know what I mean, you're not shocked. Yeah. That's one of the philosophies back then. The reason why they use them little bitty gloves, is because
interesting. Isn't it? So which historical figure in boxing, apart from those you've worked with, do you admire most and why?
Historical figure, shit, Muhammad Ali. That's my hero.
Oh,
He's the one that got me into boxing. Yeah, Muhammad Ali. He was my man. He was. Never met the guy. I wish I had him, man. I've known a lot of people that met him, man, but I never met him and everything, man. He was my hero. He's the guy I used to watch all the time, coming up on network TV. Yeah, when Ali fought, the world stopped. Yeah, that was back in the 70s. Were you born in the 70s?
I was born in '78, so I missed Ali's career.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Every time he fought, the world stopped. And when he fought, like in the Thriller of Manila, you would get by the radio and listen to it. Then you would watch the replay a week later. Yeah, it was interesting, man. But Ali, he was. It's not only what he did for boxing, but he did for mankind. You know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I mean. He was my hero, Ali. Yeah, Muhammad, because him, I got into boxing. He's the one that got me into boxing, got me excited about the sport. You know what I mean? Like, oh man, I want to be a fighter. You know what I mean? Ali was, brash, cocky, arrogant. You know what I mean? He was a fighter, boy. And hey, you can't question his heart. Ali, you know what I mean? He get up, he get hurt, he get up. Nowadays, guy gets hurt, gets knocked down. You keep your fingers crossed if they're gonna get up. That back then it was automatic. Larry Holmes, shit. Talk about heart. He got hurt, he got up.
Yeah.
And nowadays, like I said, they get hurt. Man, you're like, please get up. You know what I mean? Please get up.
Yeah, I mean, we all know about Larry Holmes, how he got up from the Ernie Shavers knockdown. It was unbelievable. That was maybe the hardest punch I've ever seen. Now Holmes got up.
Oh, did you see that?
Yeah. How he got up now, I'll never know.
And the thing is, there was no question in his mind. He was going to get up. There was no doubt. Okay, there was no. Oh, let me think. Should I get up? No, Holmes, I'm going to get up. Right here, man. You can't teach heart.
And by the end of the round, Holmes was putting it on Shavers.
What's that?
By the end of the round, Holmes was putting it on Shavers.
Yeah.
He was fighting better.
What a fighter he was, huh? Holmes.
Yeah, mean. He was mean. He was tough, wasn't he? Yeah.
That 15th round when he won the title, when he beat Norton, I think it was in 78 or 79. Fight was even, 7 rounds each.
That 15th round. Great round.
Who wants it more? Fight was even. Heavyweight championship of the world was on the line. Who wants it more? Fight was even. 7 rounds each. Both went at it. Holmes had just a little bit much. He had this much more, a little bit more to separate himself from Norton. Norton was pretty damn tough fighter back then. Oh, he was trained by Futch.
Yeah, Ken Norton, yeah.
And another good friend of mine who was passed away, great trainer, Bill Slayton. Yeah.
Bill Slayton, yes. Ken Norton as well,
Bill was a good friend of mine back then. He trained Lamont Brewster. Yeah.
The heavyweight. He was another awesome puncher, Lamont Brewster.
And he could. Lamont. I saw him. I knew him in the amateurs too. I knew him way back in the day. Jesse trained him in the amateurs. Reid.
Okay.
Yeah. I knew him. Yeah, I seen him 5 years ago at the WBC convention. He's a grandfather now. I'm like,
wow.
Yeah. But that Norton, you can't. Was he tough or what? Norton, was he
Mm.
tough?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
asking you.
Oh,
Oh,
Ken Norton was it? Yeah, great fighter.
oh,
Yeah.
oh man. That Remember that 15th round? How they were just sitting
Mm.
there trading and slugging it. Both wanted to be champion. Both were hungry. Hey man, fuck the X's and O's. Fuck the X's and O's. It's about how bad you want it. You know what I mean? Ooh, that
Yeah.
Holmes boy. Ooh, he had this much more than Norton for the separation to win it. Because that 15th round was razor tight. Remember that?
Yeah.
It was close.
Yeah.
Holmes, the last 20 seconds, he started pulling ahead with the combinations. He sucked
Mm.
it up. He was tired, but he sucked it up. You know what I mean?
It's like Ali said. Like Ali said, the will has to be greater than the skill.
Casamano said that.
Mm.
The will's gotta be greater than the skill. Yeah, and hey, sometimes in a fight, hey, fuck the X's and O's. You throw out the
Yeah.
window. Now it's about right here. That's what I
Exactly.
loved about Tony Lopez. When I was working with him, man, I learned a lot about uh, mental intestinal fortitude, being a resilient competitor, toughness.
Is
Yeah.
that something which you can teach a fighter, or something that your fighter just has?
Oh shit. To me, you could try to cultivate in the fighter, but to me, I really believe it's a fighter has to have it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't. I mean, I can. As a coach, you're not only teaching them the sweet science, but you're cultivating his character, his toughness, his mental intestinal fortitude, his resiliency. But yeah, you go in the fight. That's when you're going to find out. You know what I mean?
Mm.
That's when you're going to find out. Who they are as a fighter. Like Teddy Atlas said the other day. I remember I was watching one of his podcasts. You're not in a fight until you have to overcome something. He's right. He says it's just an athletic exhibition. Well, what he's trying to say is that you're in a fight, you're controlling the fight, you're answering all the questions, but you're not. You're asking all the questions, but you're not answering no questions because you got it's a one-sided exhibition. I had a lot of those. Well, my guys are that much talented, but when the competition, you go up the ladder, the cream rises at the top.
Mm.
It's more than athletic talent. That's when character
Yeah.
comes in. Yeah,
Yeah.
will.
Because at that level, everyone's good. So you
You're damn
gotta
right.
dig deep.
That's why they're
Yeah.
there. Cream
Exactly. Yeah.
rises to the top, baby. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Holmes, man. Oh, man, what a fighter. Oh,
Mm.
that Holmes. Oh, what a fighter. Eddie Futch trained him too, man. Yeah, he said Holmes was hard headed. Didn't like to listen. But he said the only time he listened was when he was in a tough fight and he got back to the corner and he wanted some instructions from Eddie to get him out of that fucking mess he was in. Yeah, that's the only time he would listen. Listen, Eddie told me that. Yeah.
Holmes had some great trainers. He had Arcel and Futch in the same corner, didn't he? At one time, Ray
Well,
Arcel and Eddie Futch.
Holmes was trained by Richie Gacchetti most of the time, one of Don King's in-house trainers. Then Futch came along, yeah. But Richie was Richie Gacchetti. He passed away a long time ago. He was one of the Don King's in-house trainers. He would train all of Don's heavyweights and everything. But I don't know. I don't know. I just know. I remember Eddie training. I remember Richie training them. I don't remember. I don't know. I might be wrong, but I don't remember Ray Arcel. I never met the guy. I heard a lot of stories about him from Don. I met Dundee. Yeah, I met Dundee. I know, from Don.
Okay.
Don, him and Don were real good friends. Yeah,
Mm.
Dundee. Really, really. You know what he told me in front of Don one time about training
Mm.
Sugar Ray Leonard and Muhammad Ali? He goes, "What the hell am I going to teach them guys?" You know what I mean? Meaning, they train
Mm.
themselves. He was just more of a positive influence. Being positive around
Mm.
there. And sometimes that's all. That's all you need to do to get in camp with them and make money.
Well,
Is
yeah.
the
Well,
hell?
I suppose Angelo Dundee and the Thomas Hearns Sugar Ray fight, the first one, when Dundee said to Leonard, "You're blowing it," and then Leonard came out and won the fight. So sometimes that's all that's needed, isn't it? That when you're fighting, when
No.
you're around great fighters like that.
Well, Ray was a resilient competitor. Ray had this like Larry Holmes. Okay, Dundee didn't teach him that. Okay, now Dundee would have told me that I was in the corner. I said, "Yeah, you know what I mean. It's who you're telling it to." Okay, all right,
Mm.
all right. Any other fighter, Dundee would have said that too. They would have like, okay. Now the other was who you're telling to. Like I said, when you got guys like that, Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, it makes your job a lot easier, man. I mean, come on, man. I mean, Jesus. I mean, you know what I mean? You ain't, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like
I mean,
Dundee
yeah.
said, what the hell am I going to teach him? You know, it's like Michael Spink. Michael
Michael
Spinks.
Spinks, yeah, great light heavyweight.
Yeah,
Beat Larry Holmes, didn't he? A couple of times.
he trained himself basically. But
Oh,
one
really?
time I saw Mike. It was
But
at the
Spinks
WBC.
worked with Eddie Futch, didn't he?
Let me tell you the story. I, I, I saw Michael at the WBC convention, and hey, Mike, we start talking. I said, hey, tell me about how is it to be trained by Eddie Futch, legendary Eddie Futch. He looked at me and laughed. He goes, let me tell you something. He goes, I basically trained myself. He goes, the only reason why Eddie started training me because Butch Lewis, his promoter, wanted Eddie to get involved because he was getting ready to fight Dwight Braxton at the time. He goes, but I didn't want to, but I just did it because I didn't want to, I didn't want to make any waves with Butch. Butch kept on insisting, but he goes, man, when he started training me and telling me this and that, I used to look at him like, like, you know what I mean? He goes, you know what he told me? He goes, what the hell is he goes, what the hell's Futch gonna teach me? I'm an Olympic gold medalist. Yeah, that's what he told me. So,
Wow.
don't believe a lot of Eddie trained a lot of fighters, but there's times where his name gets put on a fighter. It ain't always the case. And Michael told me that. He goes, man, what the hell is he gonna do? What the hell is he gonna teach me? I'm an Olympic gold medalist. Yeah.
But is this the fighter's ego coming into play? Because you're a world champion fighter, Olympic champion. Is this just the ego coming into play that sometimes they just don't want to listen to a trainer, even though a trainer can teach them?
Fighters just like to call their own shots. They want to be,
Mm.
they want to train themselves. Some guys are like that. Want to hear a
Yeah,
story?
yeah,
Want to
yeah,
hear a
yeah,
story? Don
yeah,
Charter told me
definitely.
this. First time he met Sugar Ray Robinson. Uh, George Gainsford was training Harry Wiley. He had a
Hey,
father
Wiley
down.
Senior, yeah,
Yeah, not no more. Well, they weren't training. He wasn't with them. So Gainsford took
okay.
over. And at the time, Don was telling me, "Oh, what a great trainer Gainsford was." He was on back then. He was on the front page of every fucking newspaper. You know what I mean? He was put on a pedestal. Okay, Gainsford. Oh, because he
Mm.
had Robinson. So
Yeah,
Don, he went to go watch him train when he was in Oakland. He took a bus to go watch him when he was younger, and he was watching Robinson because that was his hero. So he went up to Ray afterwards. He goes, "Hey Ray, man, you got a great trainer in George Gainsford," because he believed all that bullshit in the newspaper. You know what Ray told him? Ray goes, "Look, I train myself. The only reason why I keep him around because he's loyal to me. You know what I mean? He'll fight for me outside the ring, but I train myself. Okay." He let him know that right there. Yeah. Yeah. You know what I
that's
mean?
quite
Some fighters are
interesting.
like that.
It's quite interesting because Harry Wiley Senior was with Robinson as an amateur and as a pro as well. So I'm assuming Harry Wiley Senior should get more of the credit as opposed to George Gainsford. Well, what do you
Yeah,
think? Mm.
I agree. But Gainsford, why? From what
He's
Don
more
told
a
me,
manager, wasn't he?
Wiley was more quiet, didn't like the spotlight. But Gainsford was he liked to be in the spotlight and wanted attention. So he got all the
Just like
well, he got
Robinson.
it. But when he told Don that, Don was like shocked, like yeah, yeah, because he had in his mind like Gainsford taught him everything he knew. But you know what Don told me later on, he realized Robinson, anybody could have trained him. They would have been a great trainer. He was that great of a talent. Okay. Manuel Stewart used to tell what Emmanuel Stewart told me. He told me it's not the sculpture, it's the marble. You understand? You understand now? Yeah. The fighter has a lot to do with it, man.
Yeah.
Okay. See me. You wanna
You
winning
need you
combination
need a
team.
horse. You need a horse in a race, don't you?
What's that?
You need a horse in the race, don't you?
You can't you can't win the Kentucky Derby with the donkey. All right. You need a stallion. Now you know what when Joe Goosen told me, me and Joe Goosen used to have talks like that. When he got Michael Nunn, then he started, okay, man, I'm a pretty good trainer. Shit, you got a talent like Michael Nunn. How can you fuck it up? You know what I mean? He goes, Gainsford. I'm not talking bad, about it. I'm just telling
But
you what Don told me facts. He goes,
Dundee also trained Michael Nunn as well, didn't he?
ooh,
Angelo Dundee also trained Michael Nunn as well, didn't he?
Michael Nunn.
Angelo
Yeah,
Dundee.
that was after the fact, but
Yeah,
it's like
yeah,
Michael
but it's like
called
you,
his own
you
shots.
mentioned Leonard Ali, and now Nunn Dundee. Well, there's something to do with all of them.
Yeah, but he
He was
called
great
his own
talents.
shots.
Mm,
That's after he left Joe. Okay, because Mike wanted to be, he didn't like that discipline, that hard work. When he became champion, human nature is when you become champion, you get successful, you don't work as hard. Okay,
mm.
it's human nature. So Dundee came aboard, but that didn't help. But it happened. But the thing is, it's the talent, man. And, another, you know what he told me about Gainsford too? Uh, he can't recall any other fighter that was great that he worked with. He goes, a lot of them didn't even get out of the preliminary stage.